Well, today is the busiest travel day of the year. Nearly 50 million Americans expected to travel this weekend. But there are growing fears of Paris copycat attacks here in the U.S., and that has many American travelers on edge. Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is live at Reagan National Airport. Catherine.
Well, thank you, Greta. This holiday weekend will test and stress the system because the Paris attacks were real game changers for Homeland Security as well as the FBI. They showed that ISIS in Syria is willing to hit soft targets outside the region and use Western passport holders to do it. The Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson said today that they're going to take the existing security at airports as well as major transit hubs, and they're going to intensify it. What we saw here at Reagan Airport were these heavily armed patrols, also bomb-sniffing dogs. You can expect that at other airports and transit hubs in other parts of the country as well. The real focus is going to be, though, on the overseas flights, and those changes actually happened earlier this month after it was confirmed by investigators that a bomb brought down that Russian jet in Sinai, Egypt. The changes to security there at overseas airports are for flights coming into the United States, and the changes in security are classified, so we can't tell you a lot about them, except we understand they include additional screening for passengers as well as additional layers of screening for cargo and luggage. Greta.
Catherine, thank you. So are there air marshals on every flight? Are the air marshals all armed? Former federal air marshal Matt Graham goes on the record. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you? Thanks for having me, Greta.
Good. I'm fine. So tell me, are there air marshals on every domestic flight, and are the air marshals armed?
The air marshals are armed. The flights that air marshals covered is classified, so we can't discuss the amount of air marshals both within the service and the amount of flights that are covered. But if you just look at the amount of flights that go in and out every day, it would be unrealistic to think that every flight would be covered.
What about international flights? Do we have agreements on the international flights, the U.S. carriers and foreign carriers?
Yeah, the bulk of air marshal travel is within an international scope of work. Other foreign governments have their own air marshal services. Those are trained by the Federal Air Marshal Program in Atlantic City, New Jersey. But the bulk of U.S. air marshals are on foreign carriers and domestic carriers. It's based on the threat matrix and what is happening at the time.
Go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, Greta, the bigger disconnect here is what's happening on the ground. The U.S. Federal Air Marshal Service, the men and women that comprise the Air Marshal Program, are the most highly trained, the best aviation counterterrorism personnel in the world. The issue we have here is TSA and TSA screening. Recently, through studies and tests done at TSA, 95% of contraband made it through TSA checkpoints. So it doesn't matter how good you are in the air, if we're not taking care of things on the ground, it's a problem.
All right, I think that test was in June. I think they retested in September and found there was no improvement, which doesn't make me feel any better. What about access to the aircraft, food service, people who are doing any work on the tarmac?
The majority of those people would be uncleared personnel, people that have not gone through a higher level background check. So there is a significant issue there. A little bit of breaking news, if the reports coming out of TSA, if the emails are accurate, and I want to check something here real quick. The Federal Air Marshal Program director, the director of FAMS, Roderick Allison, is a fantastic man, and it looks as though in the past 90 minutes to 2 hours, TSA has moved him to acting deputy administrator of TSA, making him the #2. So we're moving in the right direction. We're taking proactive personnel that have a vested interest in seeing that plane take off and land. You can do a lot of work on the ground, but when you're in the aircraft, you have a vested interest of that thing landing on the wheels. So moving him from the director of FAMS over to the #2 spot in TSA looks to be a change in the right direction.
Yeah, except for the fact if they're not watching who can put something on board the plane, because of all the people who have access to the plane on the ground. It doesn't matter if you've got an armed marshal in the cabin when you've got something in your cargo bin or under your seat that you don't know about. But anyway,
absolutely. But if we take the guy that's used to, and that's what happens with Director Allison. He's used to what I used to do. So if we take him, who has a vested interest in that, and get it closer to searching the aircraft, it does.
I've got to go. Thank you, Matt.
Have a great holiday.